Ohio is recognized for 5 minutes on his amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This has been read. This doesn't allow petitions for relatives, fiancés, or workers coming from Brazil. And I first want to say thank you to Judge Carter, Chairman Carter, Mr. Price. We passed a very similar amendment out of the Appropriations Committee that was dinged here a little bit earlier. This is a narrowly tailored version of that. And I rise today not because I want to. Many of us come here because we want to offer amendments. I don't necessarily want to offer this amendment, but I'm offering this amendment on behalf of Major Carl Herrig. And I'd like to tell the House of Representatives a brief story about Carl, who flew 200 missions for our country in Iraq and Afghanistan. On March 10th of 2007, Major Carl Herrig's wife went out and bought a .357 Magnum and shot and went to a shooting range. She purchased ammo and asked, "What ammo can I buy here that best kills?" 2 days later, Claudia Herrig shot Major Carl Herrig in my congressional district. She fled to Brazil, where she was from, and she could not be extradited, so we were told, because we don't have a treaty with Brazil in order to extradite their citizens, which would make sense. But later, throughout the investigation, we found out that in August of 1999, Claudia Herrig renounced her Brazilian citizenship and said she was a citizen of the United States, which gives us every right to have her come back and extradited back to the United States. Now, this woman shot a war hero. She renounced her Brazilian citizenship, and she now is drinking rum runners in Rio de Janeiro, walking around freely in Brazil, while Carl Herrig's family is sitting in Newton Falls, Ohio, his parents wondering why we can't bring this woman back into the United States for justice. Now, many people would say, well, why are you offering an amendment? Why are you trying to defund visas? Because I've been working on this since 2007. I've got a stack of letters here that go back to Alberto Gonzales. Now, many members of this Congress don't even know who he was. Condoleezza Rice, then Secretary Clinton. On and on and on to try to get the attention of people, and it takes an amendment in the Appropriations Committee to say we're not going to pay and be able to fund visas anymore. Now, I don't have any problem with Brazil. We've got a good relationship with them. But they have a woman who killed one of our airmen, who flew 200 missions to Iraq and Afghanistan. And you want to talk about a safe haven? If the kids from Boston, the Boston massacre a few weeks back, instead of going to the 7-Eleven, they got on a flight and they went to Brazil, they'd be sitting in Brazil right now, and we wouldn't be able to get them back here. Now, I recognize that this is extraordinary actions, but there's a long process ahead before this bill becomes law. We've gotten the Brazilians' attention, and now it's time for us not to take the pressure off, but to allow this process to continue until Claudia Herrig is back in the United States and getting prosecuted in Trumbull County, Ohio. It should be known, too, to this House that Al-Qaeda is setting up shop in Brazil, planning attacks, training people in Brazil right now. I've got two articles, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to submit for the record here.
That's got to be done under general leave.
Then I won't submit them, Mr. Chairman. But Al-Qaeda is setting up Brazil right now, and we have no mechanism. If someone would commit a terrorist act here in the United States, flee to Brazil, we would not be able to get them back. And I think this amendment sends a signal to the Brazilians, hopefully in the long term, to renegotiate treaties and the talk of extradition, but also in the short term to get Claudia Herrig back into the United States. And I would just like to end, Mr. Chairman, with a quote from Carl Herrig's dad, Ed Herrig. He said, "Our government is supposed to be the most powerful country in the world. and they're turning their back on a 25-year veteran. It's wrong. When you say the Pledge of Allegiance, the last sentence is, "and justice for all." They are turning their back on my son's justice. Let's right this wrong, Mr. Chairman, and pass this amendment.